Warning, this channel is meant for viewers 21 plus and was created for educational and documentary purposes only. BeginnerBUDZ does not condone illegal activity and certainly does not sell anything, so don't even ask. Seriously.
How's it growing, everyone? Well, we took a week off, but we're back at it with a vengeance. This week's episode is going to be a little longer to account for the footage that should have been in last week's video. So buckle up, because we're about to hit all the ladies, including the Awesome Sauce by 360 Grow 420 in our Mr.Zkittles season and our Blueberry Kush and LSD as well. As if all that wasn't enough to get you excited, we already installed 2 of our new Mars Hydro SP3000s, and we're about to show you what's new and what's exciting, so let's get into it. Alright guys, so it's been about 2 weeks since our last update, but this is going to be a fun one. 2 seasons running side by side, one featuring Megacrop and Bud Explosion by Greenleaf Nutrients, and the other by Lotus Nutrients. Now, anyone who's been with us for a while knows that there was a time where the BeginnerBUDZ duo was discouraged, but those days are no more. Megacrop and Lotus gave us beginners a reinvigorated look at just how fun growing can be for beginners. Not only that, but it really showed us that there are just some products that are gonna work better for our grow method, what we hope to achieve, and perhaps most importantly, our environment. Either way, we got a lot to get into involving those, but first, let's take a look at a few new toys that just went up in the tents.
So, here will be a real test. Who here follows us on social media? Those that do will probably already have known that Mars Hydro recently sent us their newest release to try out. Much to our surprise, it was a clearly upgraded model compared to the SP250, which we recently got to run as well. Now, we will say here that the SP2 series was an incredible step up for Mars Hydro. First thing right off the bat, the company started using Samsung LEDs, which is at this point a well-known and sought-after brand. Not only are we getting higher quality and longer-lasting LEDs now, but the spectrum seems to have improved since the SP250, with the 3000 doing better with their red spectrum, which is great for flower. Along with that, its predecessor could cover a 2x4 foot max area, which is great, but seeing how the 3000 is 300 watts compared to the 230 that the 250 is capable of, and you can see why it covers more here as well. In the end, the SP3000 is good to cover up to a 3 foot by 4 foot area, especially in veg when you need lower intensity lights.
Furthermore, Mars Hydro carried over their UV diodes, and you guys already know how much we love those. But that wasn't the best part. In fact, the lighting company must have been listening to customers because they put a dimmer switch right on the light. Let's prove a point here. Another question for you guys. Anyone have a Mars Hydro light that came out, let's say more than 6 months or a year ago? Tell them what they won, folks. The dimmer switch is a huge improvement here, as we used to have to adjust the Mars Hydro lights by turning a screw in the back of the power supply. It could be a pain finding the screw head at times, and dang, those things are touchy. Just a hair one way or the other shot you so far outside of the desired wattage range that you might as well just start over. That said, those days and frustrations were a thing of the past with the new dimmer switch. Just like that, Mars Hydro fixed a huge issue for customers, making their lights a pretty sweet package deal. And for us, well, we're a little more than stoked with the results. After all, we know what our plants look like in real time, and although they're just babies recorded 2 weeks ago showing here, they're really rocking it under the SP3000s in the present.
Now yes, a lot of that is in part due to Mars Hydro. However, the other part of that success is Lotus nutrients. One thing that we always like to add here is that it is more expensive, but it just depends on whether or not it's worth the trade-off for you. If ease and simplicity are a main priority, just like it is for us, then you may want to listen up. For one, Lotus has taken the guesswork out of their system for experienced and new growers alike. In fact, Lotus sends a feed schedule with their lineup, breaking it down to a week-by-week process. I mean, just take a look at the LSD by 420 Fast Buds. One of the two ladies are making phenomenal strides. Following the schedule to the letter, this particular plant is in week 3, so she got a half teaspoon of grow, a 3/4 teaspoon of bloom. We also add 2 milliliters of TPS organic CalMag as well, and we're off to the races, seeing how Lotus auto pHs your water to a 6.1, 6.2 range. And seeing how this range is great for cocoa, we decided to use that as our medium, making feeding times even easier. Simple as that.
One thing we really like about Lotus here is that they pay attention to not just what the plants need, but when they need it. And if you pay attention to nitrogen, you can see why. Lotus instructs people to use their grow through the first week of flower and then stop. Why? Because they know that there's a decreased need for nitrogen in flower. However, plants do need a little more during that first week of flower stretch. Of course, we wouldn't want to keep feeding it nitrogen and give the plant a toxicity, so Lotus cuts it out after that. Unfortunately, this is still BeginnerBUDZ, which means that not everything in our tent is going smoothly. In fact, a quick look over will show you a much smaller, clearly stunted, and suffering plant. Come to find out, this is actually another LSD, and she was not happy. Now, seeing how we've been on a kick with questions for you, let's continue the trend. Who here knows what the problem is? Okay, great. So, now, we all know it's overwatering. However, the real question is, when did you notice? A few weeks back when we started the Lotus season, we didn't notice something wrong right off the bat. But at least one viewer did, and it always stuck in the back of our minds until that commenter's words would come to life and begin to haunt us.
We realized what we did at the time, but unfortunately, not until it was much too late. Simply put, we had just gotten done feeding a much older, flowering plant about 300 milliliters when we went to feed an LSD seedling that was only about a week old. Without even thinking, we filled up another beaker full of 300 milliliters instead of the 30 milliliters we intended, and got to pouring away. We saw at least one comment mentioning that we used too much water, if not 2 or 3. These people, hats off to you, because it wasn't until much later that we would realize what had actually happened. In the meantime, the pot never dried out, resulting in overwatering symptoms and stunting. Even worse yet, trying to let the pots dry out too much without a small dose of nutrients would result in the plants exhibiting deficiency despite the cocoa still being wet. Whatever. We're looking into automated watering. That's all we'll say right now. I don't want to talk about it. We know what went wrong. Lesson learned, and we're moving on. It just goes to show that you really do have to have everything dialed in as one collective machine to successfully cultivate quality cannabis. From your temps and humidity to your lights, watering, and nutrients. It all has to be working in collaboration with one another for everything to come together in harmony. Take, for instance, our Mr.Zkittles season. Those who have been tagging along for a while now know that we're running a couple awesome sauce autoflowers from 360 Grow 420 Genetics.
We started with 4 auto regular seeds, got the perfect amount of lucky when we say we had 2 males and 2 females, removed the boys, and started training the girls. Now, I'd just like to pause here and remind everyone that we aren't suggesting the way that Mr.Zkittles grows his plants to you. And you know what the best part about this guy is? He wouldn't either. Instead, he'd simply show you what he does and let you decide for yourself which portions look like they may benefit you. So, that's all we're doing. We're not saying this is the best way. We're not saying this is the only way. We're just showing off one of the many wonderful ways to cultivate cannabis. Alright, back into it. Last update on the awesome sauce, we had done a little defoliation. After topping our ladies, we removed the fan leaves from the top 2 nodes, allowing for better light penetration to the bud sites below. But that's not all Mr.Zkittles had in store. Luckily for us, we already know all about LST, so it was back to it. But there was a new problem we'd quickly notice. You see, when you LST in plastic pots, like what we're used to, you have a certain amount of control you get from the stiff plastic walls. That said, you don't have that with fabric pots, meaning that you ultimately have to find a balance between where the plant settles and where the pot settles.
For now, we cut a slit in the fabric pots between the reinforced stitching to attach our LST wires, but we're going to start using safety pins in any future grows after this. At this point, we're still experimenting, and we may look into something like bamboo posts for more support, and are definitely open to suggestions, so hit us up in the comments if you have a method that you'd like to share with us. Either way, we gave the girls a day or 2 to recover after being topped and lightly defoliated, but then it was back to business. Remember here, these girls went into flower at 2.5 weeks. 360 Grow 420 bred them this way to reinvigorate the love for growing regular autos by speeding up the identification process, which is great, but it's not fun to be caught off guard.
We'll have to stress the girls in flower a little, but it's better to set them up for success and dock them a couple days progress than to constantly struggle with something when we could have fixed it in the first place.
With that in mind, we grabbed the LST wire and got to work. We didn't want to go too aggressive here as the girls were already in flower, but we certainly wanted to open the plant up for the long run.
So, with the help of some extremely light LST, we did just that. Nothing too harsh, just to open the plant up a bit and allow better light penetration to the lower branches. Once again, mistakes were made. While trying to train the delicate top of the plant, one of the branches broke. We tried to save it by taping the crack, but we weren't tight enough and lost the branch entirely. I will say the plant looks a little smaller in size now, not by much, but she is definitely more frosty. I'm not sure if that has anything to do with it, but we feel there's a certainly good chance. Either way, they're both getting the same thing every time they're fed. You guys know we're in love with Megacrop as our plants have never looked this lush and green. Not only has this brand saved a couple growers who almost quit when they got discouraged, but these plants are starting to look like the best we've ever grown. Even better yet, now that the girls are fully in flower, we get to introduce another product in the green leaf nutrient lineup, something called Bud Explosion. Now, if that doesn't make you want to buy something right off the bat, we don't know what will. Even better yet though, the product actually speaks for itself.
Countless success stories with this, and just like Megacrop, a little goes a long way. Right now, we're currently working on a prospective feed schedule that we'd like to run, but that's far from perfect. That said, we could drop a schedule that we think would have a pretty good chance at success. Just let us know if that is something that you think would be helpful. These girls got a simple 1/4 teaspoon of Megacrop and a 1/4 teaspoon of Bud Explosion per gallon of water. But that's when we spotted something a bit off. Alright guys, last question for the episode. Who can see what may be wrong with our awesome sauce? And this is a 100% grower error here, to be precise. We'll give you a hint. Dark green leaves. Looks nice, right? But it's actually the beginning of a nitrogen toxicity. Regardless, we have experience with that, and Megacrop makes it an easy problem to solve. Just back off the Megacrop. Like we said, we're still working on a solid schedule, but things are clearly headed in the right direction.
One more thing worth mentioning here is how much we are really enjoying growing in soil. Not only do you get a little natural boost right in the beginning of veg, all that microbial and decomposing nutrient-rich goodness ripe for absorption, but we don't have to water nearly as much. We're talking about 5 days between waterings here through veg and flowers so far. Don't forget your CalMag. We're using Calzyme, which is working out really nice for us once again. Why? The auto pH ability Calzyme offers. Ultimately, Megacrop has magnesium in it, so as long as you're feeding the plant that, it should only need calcium, which is where Calzyme comes into play. The finely ground chalk-like dust offers an NPK of 000, but also auto pHs right to 7.0, which is great for soil. Funny how that works out sometimes, huh? We also have some Real Growers Recharge lying around from our Nature's Living soil run, and darn it, that stuff is expensive, so we're going to use it.
Guys, really, please remember that just because we use something, it doesn't mean you should run out and buy it. Do your research, find out what it does, and if you think it's worth the trade-off, then buy it. Recharge for us is a no-brainer. We're growing in soil. Recharge delivers a fresh blast of microbes beneficial to both the soil and the plant. Sounds silly to pass on, right? Exactly. Is there better? Maybe, but this is what we have, so this is what we're going to use for now. As for the awesome sauce, well, let's just say a little LST wasn't all their excitement for the week. In fact, we most recently set up the 4x4 tent to be our official flower tent. We have a dehumidifier in there to lower humidity down to our optimal 40 to 45% RH, and of course, the electric skies. We just have to say here, we absolutely love that we put these lights over here. Not only do these things haul when it comes to bringing out the fastest and strongest growth, but the frost it can put on some plants is really quite spectacular. The Green Sunshine Company was kind enough to gift us with 2 Electric Sky 300s, and we have been putting them to work ever since, and today is no different. In fact, one look at the awesome sauce, just a week after being introduced to the electric skies, and you can see why we love these lights, especially in flower. I mean, the plants don't even have any buds on them, let alone any colas at the moment, but the trikes are already starting to stack.
Like we said, it's all a combination of genetics, environment, and feed schedule, and we're starting to hone in on all 3. Issues with any subcategory of these 3 main points can and likely will end in some kind of stress to the plant and lessened yields. Fortunately for us, we're trying to make that a thing of the past, but you'll just have to wait until next week to see if there are any significant signs of improvement like the ones we're seeing. Until then, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments if Megacrop or Lotus would better fit your current grow situation. Of course, if you guys want more Beginner Buds, feel free to follow us along on any one of our social media pages for additional content, and as always, keep learning, keep growing. Catch you later, guys.
Hey, geek. You still here?
Can I get a hiya?